Good to have you 3 and Out here on this Friday. Kevin, BJ, and Ben, glad you're making us a part of your day. So much to get to as we head into the college football weekend. Chad Sutton, former South Carolina defensive lineman, Savannah native, will join us. We'll talk about South Carolina and Florida. And at Jason Foster, 2007 Walter Payton Award winning quarterback from Georgia Southern, will join us coming up in hour number 2. But joining us here right off the show, the athletic director of Georgia Southern University, Jared Binko, joins us after a big press conference yesterday for Clay Helton. Jared, welcome. How are you?
Good, guys. It's good to be with y'all. Hope y'all doing all right.
We're doing fantastic. I know the big announcement yesterday, and you talked about this process. What ultimately led you to Clay Helton, and obviously what were kind of things you were looking for from Clay that said, this is the direction we're going?
Yeah, well, as you can imagine, we had a lot of interest from coaches across the country, head coaches, coordinators, position coaches, and really at the end of the day, when you look at all your criteria and the boxes you want to check, Coach Helton checks it all. I mean, he won at a very high level at USC, and I share with our president, I don't know how many times I'll have a chance to hire a Rose Bowl champion, and so not only winning the Rose Bowl and winning the Pac-12, but being 3 championship games, and you look at recruited elite level explosive offenses. I mean, quite honestly, there really was more of a question why not, and so it worked really well for us, and I think he's a great fit. And listen, he spent 15 years in the South, so he knows the South, and he was at Memphis for 10 years and Duke for 2 and Auburn for 3. So across the board, I think a really good fit for us, and excited to get it going day one.
Jared, great energy yesterday. What was yesterday like from your perspective?
Yeah, listen, it was a culmination of a lot of hard work, a lot of talking to different coaches. And so really, when you go through these processes, like anything in life, you get locked in. And so we were locked in for 4 or 5 straight weeks. And so it's like anything in life, when it finally comes to the day for announcements, it's surreal. It's a lot of excitement, obviously. But I'll be also quite honest with you, too. I slept better last night than I have in a while. So it was a good deal across the board, but really it was an excitement for Eagle Nation, and really what they got a chance to see was what I saw throughout the process is, here's someone that can step in right away and make a big impact. And you'll see it right out of the gate in recruiting, and then obviously as we get through the season, and we have 4 more games, have Coastal Carolina tomorrow, but you'll see it in the offseason conditioning as well, and some of the things we're going to do to build out our football staff to resemble Power 5s. It really gets me excited.
Jared, it's one thing to have a guy you really want. It's another thing to get the guy you coveted. The one thing Coach said yesterday was, he said, look, a conversation was supposed to last 10 minutes, lasted over an hour. How much is how you and Coach vibing had a lot to do with the decision as well?
Yeah, I had a lot. I was joking yesterday. It took several phone calls with my wife at the time, now girlfriend at the time, to get her on a date, So obviously I had more success with Coach Hilton than my wife. So but, on a serious note, no, I think it's like anything, Ben. One of the things I said from the outset was I wanted someone that was going to be a partner. Listen, this business is so competitive. Football in the Sun Belt and across the country is so competitive. You got to have alignment. If you don't have alignment, it can be a pretty big hurdle. You're not going to reach your full potential. So the alignment piece to me was huge. And so, day one is like anything. There's people that you jive with. There's people that you, hit it off right out of the gate. And really with Coach Helton, I had the same impressions. And really the one thing I was sharing earlier yesterday, you try to not have confirmation bias, because these searches, you're talking to so many people, you don't want to fall in love with the candidate. But obviously it was, number one from the get-go. And he did a great job just showing about him wanting to be here. His credentials spoke for himself, but he wanted to be in Statesboro, and that meant a lot.
Jared Binko, Georgia Southern Athletic Director, joining us here on 3 and Out. And Jared, speak to the timing of this move. Obviously, you still got a month left of the football season, and about a month and a half until that early signing day. How important was it to get him in now and give him a month evaluation of the current roster, plus, I guess, recruiting and hitting that early signing period?
Yeah, that was an important piece. At the end of the day, we tried to we wanted to hire the best coach, and what that situation was. Obviously, each person's start date could be contingent upon their current job, and Coach Helton was not only the best fit for us, and also came into play as we started looking at possibilities for a start date. He starts today, day one, and we've already been meeting this morning on staffing opportunities. Going to create a draft board for guys on the position coaches, talking off the field. So, there's inherent advantages. Kevin starting this early. And I'll tell you, the biggest one's recruiting. I mean, the recruiting piece is huge, and he can get on the road immediately. And so there's just a lot of things that ultimately that wasn't the driver in the decision, but it definitely created some tailwinds and some excitement when you start kind of putting the two and two together of hiring the best coach. And oh, by the way, he gets a 5-week head start, and that was a pretty strong combination.
When you were evaluating candidates initially, what stood out most to you about Coach Helton?
I would say a couple of things. One, you get a lot of elite coaches, and so sometimes you're splitting hairs here. But you have a guy that has been, at one of the top 5 elite programs in the country, and won 67% of his games. And we talked about the other accolades. I think the other piece too is, when you talk to former student athletes, which is important, they'll say, "Listen, I'd take a bullet for the guy." They were saying how instrumental he's been in their upbringing and in their development as young men. And man, there's just a lot of people you can find that can coach, but he gets the whole 360 of, we have an awesome responsibility, BJ, to develop young men of character. And I mentioned that yesterday. There's a lot of good coaches out there, but when we talk to prospective student athletes and talk to their moms and dads and saying, "Listen, you send us a boy, we're going to send you a man back," we really mean it. And so getting a degree is not just the goal anymore. It's getting a career and a job as soon as you leave here. And so when you have someone that understands how important that is, but also someone that's a recruiter to the elite level. And then I'll share the last thing too is, listen, we all work a lot of long hours, and I'm sure sometimes y'all feel like you spend more time with each other than your families, and that's part of the nature. I love what I do, and athletics is a lifestyle, but you want to be partnered with people you genuinely like, people you genuinely respect. And so at the end of the day, if you're going to lock arms, you want to lock arms with someone that has like-minded values and morals. And so that was the icing on the cake.
Jared, how is it knowing too that you got a guy who understands not just Georgia Southern football, but like just being in the South? He said, "Look, you can hear my twang." The thing that kind of hurt him when he was in California is going to help him. And obviously, being from Gainesville, playing at Auburn, his dad is playing in Florida. And understanding just Southern football in general, collegially, it's got to help when you're walking into these young men's living room.
Oh, it's no doubt. I mean, listen, one of the things that I've said since I got here at Statesboro is what reminds me a lot of the SEC towns I've been in. It's football 365 a year. And so there's not much brighter lights than you get in LA, right? And so, being able to have success there, I think that says a lot. And, when it comes here, you think about Statesboro and where we are, man, we've got just an awesome opportunity with 6 national championships in our history. And we got a chance to get this program back where it needs to be. And I just think, Ben, to your point, when you go into the homes of moms and dads, right, and you can talk about whether it's developing, first-round draft picks, or here's some people that maybe didn't have the talent that are now in, C-suite executive, whatever the situation is, you can curtail your messaging who you're talking to. And I think that's the piece where when you've been at USC and have success. I mean, listen, guys, he had more success than Sarkisian, than Ogeron, Lane Kiffin. I mean, this is a guy that is done it the right way, and obviously takes a keen interest in these young men. And so that's the thing to me, Ben. If I was going to talk to young men, if I was in his position, hey, listen, I know you believe me, but talk to the young men I've coached. And that's one of the things where at the end of the day, when you go through that process, having that strong recruiting background and having recruit all over the country, it comes into play, because as you and I both know, South Georgia, anything below I-20, man, it's a gold mine of prospective student athletes. And so having someone that can go out and recruit at a high level is just going to make us better.
And Jared, to speak to that, you got a guy that's got obviously the coaching pedigree, the recruiting piece, and you're bringing him into a league that's getting ever competitive. Obviously, in the last 2 weeks, seemingly every other day, it's this team's coming in, and now this team's coming in, and reports are there may be an announcement about another team coming in officially in the coming days. I mean, this is obviously going to be a highly competitive environment for a league that is expecting to be the top G5 league out there.
Yeah, listen, I know I'm biased, Kevin, but it is. I mean, it's the top G5 league, and I think all you have to do is look at the coaches and the recruits that are coming in, and the schools, right? And so, it's not a coincidence where you're going now, every game you're seeing a bunch of NFL scouts. That's not by accident, right? There's high-level student athletes here on each of our campuses. And you start looking around the league now with the recent hires. I mean, the quality of coaches you have in this league, I think, is a derivative or a byproduct of these schools' strengths, getting better and better. And so you're right. I mean, with us eventually going to 14 teams, the announcement soon coming, I mean, it's going to be a competitive league. And, listen, that's what you want. Like, you don't want to have a league where it's top heavy or it's just diluted down. I mean, there's some thoroughbreds in this conference. And I would tell you going forward, next 3 to 5 years, you're going to see further separation, in my opinion, the Sun Belt from others. And again, these start to become destination jobs and not just stepping stone.
The Sun Belt has gotten a lot of national attention. Obviously, this hire has gotten a lot of national attention. Have those headlines added to the momentum that you guys have already established there in Statesboro?
No, I think so, BJ. I think that's one of the pieces that excites me because, I've said from the get-go, and I know I've visited with y'all, that we're not a regional brand. I really feel like we're a national brand as we continue to grow. And so I think this further accentuates what we're doing here. We're trying to administer and run this program like a Power 5 program. And as I share with y'all, that's all I know. And so the biggest part is just setting the vision, setting expectations very high, and then working our tail off to get there. And I think this hire is going to go a long way because as you look across the board, with the new hires we've brought in, they're already having success in year one of other programs. And so the next 3 to 5 years, you're going to see we want to be a thoroughbred and be well versed in every sport. And that's where that competitive excellence, and Ben knows being in Florida, I mean, when you're in the SEC, you want to be good at everything. Like, you don't want to be deficient at anything. That's any sport. And so for all 17 sports, we would be considered the best in the conference. And that's a lofty goal, and I get it. And maybe some say it's unattainable, but we're going to keep working towards that. And so football, obviously, if athletics is a front porch, football is a front porch of all front porches. And so we're going to get this thing back on track. We're going to get it back to where we need it to be. And ultimately, the rest will kind of fall into place because I do believe a rising tide lifts all boats. I really do.
The one thing that stood out about Coach Helton's press conference was he was talking about the community. He was talking about the family. Yeah. He was talking about just understanding where he was at Georgia Southern. I mean, I remember when Coach Zook first came in Florida, replacing Coach Spurrier, he kind of let us know where we were. We had kind of gotten used to being there. Just talk about how a guy that comes in, because a lot of times, these guys have to focus on where they are, Jared. But he was like, look, man, I'm talking about the people calling my phone in the Statesboro community. And he said, look, man, when I got the call, he would have walked from Southern Cal to Georgia Southern. Now, I don't know how long that would have took, but I want he's going to have to do that one of these off seasons.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I guess it depends if you hitchhike or not. It might not take as long, but I mean, heck, sometimes I think walking a mile down the road for lunch is too long of a walk. I can't imagine cross country. But no, listen, I think one of the great things, and I'll share this with you, and it kind of ties in. So, Ben, when you're talking to prospective coaches, they're looking at a couple things. This is synonymous across the board. I mean, I talked to 17 plus coaches. And so one thing that I think is really strong for us, we have history and tradition. You can't just create that, right? Even like last week, we have 2 wins. We had over almost, I think, 17,000 fans at the homecoming game last week. So you're getting that right out of the gate. The other thing you can replicate is fertile recruiting grounds, right? And then the last piece to me that makes it so important is you've got not only an institution on the rise, but you got a community that lives, eats, and breathes football. And so when you talk to coaches, those 3 things check the boxes. And the last piece is an alignment at the top from the president, the AD, on down the football. And as asset, when we're recruiting people here, we're saying, hey, from day one, you're going to have alignment. And I'll tell you, in Clay's standpoint, I think he had 2 presidents and 3 ADs. And you can imagine when you have a lot of turnover in different important roles like that, there's inconsistencies, right? And so I'm excited about Dr. Murrow, myself, and now Clay being in lockstep from day one. And then the community who's come out in droves to continue to support our teams. And now, I mean, Ben, listen, I'm hearing from people that have been engaged, but not to the level of maybe they want to be engaged. And you wouldn't believe just the text messages, calls. We have a thing tonight as well for our Giving Society members. I mean, people are coming out of the woodworks, and that just gets you fired up because it takes everyone on board to try to make this place elite.
Jared Binko, Georgia Southern Athletic Director, joining us here on 3 and Out. And Jared, I know ADs are always busy, but man, football coaching hire, you got basketball starting next week officially. Your conference is expanding. What has the league kind of told you about when that officially takes place? Because obviously that goes into conference scheduling and what you guys want to do with your various sports out of conference. How quickly are you looking at this Sun Belt expanding?
Yeah, that's a great question, Kevin. So I think part of it, honestly, those are actually, we're having dialogue next week on that. I mean, it could be as early as next year, more than likely 23. I think part of that really, centers around financial distributions. Really a lot of us had kind of thought about 23 as being the year that the full distribution comes online for these schools. There might be a situation where in 22 they come online and get no financial distribution. So that's to be determined. So, I think in some ways 23 is probably most I'd say the highest, percentage-wise of occurring. But there is a pathway to 22. There's just details we got to iron out, and most of that's just financials.
Jared Binko, our guest here on 3 and Out. The work never stops, Jared, but we appreciate you giving us some time today. Thanks so much.
That was good. I'll be on the show, guys. And I'm going to be back. I've been on a hiatus from grilling out and using my smoker, so I'm going to light that thing up on Sunday and probably do a brisket. So I got to get back on and knock the dust off and the rust off. So
well deserved, Jared. Hey, we appreciate it. Thanks so much.
All right, see you guys. Hell Southern.
Appreciate it. Jared Binko joining us here, and again, you get Clay Helton coming into the program, and as he said, your conference is expanding. New head football coach. College basketball, BJ, officially starts next week, and you got 2 programs in men's and women's that really want to compete in the Sun Belt. And I think you got soccer. I saw that their women's team is in the Sun Belt semifinals. So he is a busy guy trying to keep track of all that's going on within that Eagles athletic program. But as he said, football is all. You had to go out and get the right guy. And obviously it feels like with Clay Helton, he's that guy.
A lot of momentum, and you think about Clay Helton, his resume, his reputation, the energy. Of course, Christian was there on site yesterday for us, but the energy just that you heard from the stream of the press conference was very real. And I think there's an excitement not only locally and regionally, but nationally around the program. And great perspective from Jared on the hiring process and also the Sun Belt, which has momentum itself league-wide, and what may be coming up soon for that league.
Kevin, I mean, Jared, he put a lot of smoke in his on his grilling ability when it comes to when it comes to him and the brisket and things of that nature. But no, they got the guy they wanted, right? Jared Binko, he talks about what goes into this process, how many guys they ended up interviewing before they got the guy that they wanted. But you want a guy that loves football, you want a guy that understands the rich tradition of Georgia Southern, and a guy that wants to go out there and recruit. And Coach Helton, I mean, he checks off all the boxes. Looking forward to seeing him getting out there, because from his preliminary press conference, Kevin, looks like this guy's going to bring a lot of, energy and enthusiasm back to the program.
We've got more to come here on 3 and Out, all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network.
Hey, I'm Brad Stewart, former Georgia Tech wide receiver and former.
Good to have you here, 3 and Out on this Friday. Kevin, BJ, and Ben. We'll hear from Chaz Sutton, former South Carolina defensive lineman, Savannah native. He'll join us coming up in just a little bit. In hour 2, BJ and Ben, we'll talk to Jason Foster. Man, it's a Friday. 2007, Walter Payton award-winning quarterback at Georgia Southern. And important to note, BJ, that he was recruited by Mike Seawalk, but did not play quarterback in that option offense. He actually played for Chris Hatcher, who was obviously the air raid, the hatch attack, that kind of thing. And so he kind of has an idea of what Georgia Southern's looking at here with Clay Helton and getting away from that option. And I know they're not running the true Paul Johnson, Mike Seawalk triple option, but getting away from some of those principles to more of a traditional, I guess, as much as it is anymore, a college football offense.
Really excited to chat with Jason, one of the great players in college football history. And as you mentioned, is going to have a great perspective on the offensive transition coming up, because Jason was a wide receiver in the flex bone offense, like you said, with Coach Seawalk. Had played a couple of different roles there for a season with Brian Van Gorder. And then in 2007, when he set all kind of records, I believe had the most rushing yards for a quarterback in a single season at any level of NCAA football, and had over, I think, about 3,100 total yards. So was making plays, throwing and running. That was with Chris Hatcher, as you mentioned, coming over from Valdosta State, who's gone to other places, I believe now at Sanford. And you saw incredible production, but it wasn't out of the flex bone, as people had grown accustomed to, of course, in Statesboro. So, I mean, Ben, you were kind of showing me some plays and schemes earlier. I went and looked, and Clay Helton, understand this, I believe he said yesterday he was at SC for a dozen years and was in a couple of different roles beyond just head coach. He was interim head coach. He also was offensive coordinator, was quarterbacks coach. But I went and looked back at his last full season. Obviously was fired earlier this season at SC, and last year was the short COVID season. In 2019, when Clay Helton was the coach at SC, they ran the ball 43.2% of the time. So pretty balanced, pretty balanced attack, but a little more pass heavy. You wonder kind of what the goal will be initially at Georgia Southern and if that will change with time. But there are so many, right, Ben, similar principles where whatever your offense is, whatever you call it, however you line up, a lot of the same things and reads still apply. So I'll be very interested to hear what Jason has to say, and of course to watch Georgia Southern this offseason next spring try to establish their identity offensively.
It's not going to be as hard of a transition as people give it credit for. What's hard to do is when you play a certain style of offense, because you got to get a certain kind of player to fit that scheme. When you talk, BJ, when you talk about the RPO world, RPO is nothing but, run pass option. Yes, I mean, I know when you've gotten used to winning a certain way at a certain school for so long, you ask yourself, well, why hasn't it worked as of late? Because, when you have a run-heavy offense, it isn't built to come back when you are down double-digit points. Like, what football forces you to do is be good at what you're not good at. And they're not good at throwing the football at Georgia Southern because they run the football so well. The magic number is 200. Every time Georgia Southern rushed for 200 yards, they won the game. Think about that. We got to rush for 200. There are teams that don't rush for 200 yards in 2 games, let alone average it. So Coach Helton understands that, look, he's looking around the Sun Belt, and he's saying, Coastal Carolina, balance. You know what I'm saying? Louisiana, balance. App, balance. We play a certain style that fits us when we're winning. And when we're losing, you get exposed in the passing game. So I think he's going to do kind of, BJ, me and you, we was at Georgia Tech when they spring game. What they came out with, they finna run the triple. And then they go check, and then they go out to see what it takes a while, not because of the scheme, because of the players. A certain player, and now you got to go to another scheme. But Coach Helton, he'll be able to get some players in there. And let me tell you guys something. RPOs, when done right, it's beautiful to watch, because when you're looking around, Coastal Carolina has gotten really, really good as of late. App is still the beast of the Sun Belt, and Louisiana, they pretty good too. You got to be able to compete with the offense around you.
Well,
and
Ben,
every time you run the football,
yeah,
put more pressure on your defense.
You're talking about Coastal Carolina, and I expect Georgia Southern to have a good effort this weekend, a real spirited effort against the Chanticleers this weekend. But you talk about your peers in your league. I was doing some statistical research for the game, and obviously Georgia Southern has played some very young, talented, very young guys. But right now, when you look at that matchup for this weekend in terms of team passer rating, Coastal Carolina is number 1 in the country right now, team passer rating, and Georgia Southern is 130th. So I think when you look at Georgia Southern and kind of what type of change offensively and schematically is ahead, I don't think you're talking about one specific style, right? As much as it's, hey, this is going to be the name of our offense and this is what we're going to do. Kevin, I know you've talked about Chris Hatcher's offenses a lot, that people kind of think, oh, he's throwing it 70 times a game. And yes, at Sanford, he did have Devlin Hodges, who went on to set records, but he's also had great ground games, including dual threat production from Jason Foster. So I think it's just about trying to find that balance. And I don't know if that's something that you immediately expect to see consistently in year one, but my guess would be, Kev, you're talking about, great talented players on the roster already, bringing in even more talent and just trying to have, like Ben said, that balance where you can have some adaptability schematically with your play calling, kind of depending on the circumstances, right?
Somewhat. I mean, I take coaches, what they say in their press conference, with a little bit of a grain of salt. Do I think he's running the option? No, I do know that. But Ben, you know this, BJ, you've been to a lot of press conferences. Who was the last football coach that went into a press conference and didn't say we want to be 50-50? I even think Mike Leach went into his press conference at Mississippi State, said we're going to be 50-50. Probably. I mean, they all say that. My guess would be Georgia Southern's going to throw it a little bit more than they run it. That would be my guess, just because of the kind of the style of offense that Clay Helton likes to run. That would be my guess. Now, you have to improve at the quarterback position, throwing the football. You need to improve blocking and able to allow your quarterback time to throw the football. But, yeah, I don't know if I'd necessarily buy the 50-50 stuff. Ben, how many coaches have you played for that said we want to be 50-50, and how many of them actually did it?
Oof, I mean, that is a selling point, because you understand that you got running backs listening and you got, receivers and tight ends listening. But, I mean, it's the game will dictate how, what it is, like, 50-50, 60-40. But I could deal with 60-40, run pass. I can't deal with 70-30. I can't deal with 80-20, because that means that we're favoring one over the other. You look at any team that's balanced. And bigger than offense, how can we help our defense? Being balanced. Sometimes we need to have long drives. You throw the ball to score, you run the ball to win. You want to be able to run the ball when you want to run the clock out. You want to be able to throw the ball to get in the end zone. If you can do that, Coach Helton, you will have a lot of fun in Georgia Southern, because, yes, you can't, Kevin, you know this. Kevin, you're a coach now. How many times you deal with parents and say, hey, why isn't my baby playing? And you go, have you seen him? I mean, I'm just saying. I'm just saying that's not hard.
Dude.
I think there's a far cry from.
Listen. All I'm saying is, BJ, listen. No, play calling is not dictated by the situation. The people running the plays dictate what you call. If you got the players to do it, go out there and call it. And over time, it'll get better. But yeah, Coach Helton, for one press conference, he won me over. Now you got to win over them Georgia Southern fans, and that's going to be easier said than done.
But Kevin, I think he even said that yesterday to a certain extent when we were streaming the press conference, something along the lines of, and this is of course not a direct quote, but something along the lines of, you don't come in with, we're definitely going to do this. You're going to be responsive to your personnel and, your strengths. So I think it'll be a process. I don't think immediately you're going to have this, a consistent identity where this is what you do regardless of opponent, regardless of the week. I think it'll be something that is fluid to a certain extent and maybe changes a little bit. But I think there is excitement around the hire, around the program. And yeah, when you think about a guy that's been the offensive coordinator, head coach, quarterbacks coach at Southern Cal, excitement around the offense and what that unit could be moving forward.
Yeah, we've got more to come here on this Friday. Chaz Sutton, former South Carolina defensive lineman, Savannah native. He will join us when we return. Florida and South Carolina coming up this weekend. It's 3 and Out on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Good to have you along here on 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Kevin Thomas, BJ Bennett, and Ben Troop. College football this weekend. South Carolina, Florida, squaring off in the SEC, and a big one for both of those schools. And joining us here, a former South Carolina Gamecock out of the Savannah area, Chaz Sutton, joins us here on 3 and Out. Chaz, welcome to the show. How are you?
Doing well, fellas. Thanks for having me.
Hey, we appreciate you coming on and joining us. You look around the SEC, you get to this last month. What's this final push like as an SEC player, especially a guy in the trenches?
Well, if your team is a contender, especially for that, that East or Western division, it's like, hey, it's every game is a must win. Can't leave nothing out there, no plays out there. I just remember my days, we got either in the middle of the season or at the end of the season, it was maybe one or two games in 2011 and 2013 where, hey, we lost because of one play or one mistake that could have put us in the SEC championship. So, right now this late push is always, pivotal, and certain teams can help you put you back in that game if they lose. So you kind of count on some teams to lose. So you like, all right, well, we had one loss or maybe we had two losses, and now that team beat the team that we needed to lose. So now we're back in the championship game. So, it all comes full circle sometimes.
Chaz, want to ask you about Shane Beamer and about South Carolina possibly getting bowl eligible, but Saturday night in Columbia, what's a Saturday night at Williams-Brice Stadium like?
Man, when that stadium is packed, man, it's electric, man. I can just tell you, man. I remember we played Georgia 2012. That was my redshirt junior year, and I think we was number 6 and they was number 5. Stadium, packed to the max, sold out game, ESPN, and it was like it was to the point where you could just feel the grass shaking up under your cleats, and that's how electric that stadium can be. And in a moment like that, that was just like one of my favorite Gamecock moments of all time. Just playing in that game and just being able to, to take the Dogs down 35-7 that night. That was like, that I will never forget that moment. That's something I always tell all my, my children and grandchildren.
And Chaz, every time I talk to a guy that played in South Carolina, they always say it's different when you play. I was blessed enough to play against Dante Robinson when you was there, and guys like Stephon Gilmore and Alshon Jeffrey. What makes it different for you guys? You guys that play for them guys in Columbia.
Oh, well, the difference is, we got a great fan base, and they back us when we're up, and they back us when we're down. Like South Carolina had a lot of down years, and when I came around in 2009 and my stretch from 09 to 13, we had some decent years. So the fan base became much more stronger and gravitated towards more with Coach Spurrier being there, and just us having those type of caliber players on our team, that definitely helped. And it gave us a push, and it also brought more relevance to our program, I should say.
Chaz Sutton, former South Carolina Gamecock, Jenkins High School Warrior there in Savannah. And Chaz, you mentioned playing there at South Carolina, and now Shane Beamer back there as head football coach and trying to get South Carolina back up there near the top of the East. How do you kind of evaluate the job he's done here back on the job?
Well, Coach, he's he's an energetic guy. I had a chance to play for him back in 2009 and 2010 when he was the special teams coordinator, and he's going to type of coach that's going to push these guys, type of coach that want the guys to have fun and be able to play this game at a high level. And I think in years to come, he's going to have that program to where it needs to be. It just takes some time, and the guys that's there now, especially the young guys, they definitely got to buy in. The older guys, the seniors, this their last year, they just got to do what the hand that dealt. But I think it's just got a new regime. You just got to be able to lay down your foundation and go from there. And I think Coach Beamer, he has a shot to get it back on track.
South Carolina, Chaz, 4-4 overall, but 3 of those losses are to ranked teams. What must South Carolina do if they're going to get a big win over Florida on Saturday night?
They just got to minimize the mistakes. play a mistake-free football game and execute, anybody has a chance to win. So, and when you play in the SEC, it's any given Saturday. That's how I look at it. You might be the last team, or we might be the number one team, or whatever the case may be. Like nobody expected, Texas A&M to take down Alabama this year. I didn't expect that, but like I said, mistake-free football and it's all about executing. That's what we got to do. We just got to go out on offense and defense, especially up front. We definitely got to, come together up front and definitely put together a well played game.
I mean, Chaz, this weekend ought to be bittersweet for you. I mean, I know you ended up there in Columbia, but I mean, I'm back in the day. It says you was committed to them Gators, man. I want to know what happened.
Yeah, I was. I was riding high on the Gator chump in high school, and then I slipped. I slipped between the cracks. I had some issues with academics, and any young men out there that's listening in high school, man, academics is very important, especially when you first get there, 9th through 10th grade, maybe 11th grade. That's your foundation. So, your core classes, you just definitely got to, put your foot down on it and make sure you get all A's and B's. I was just the type of kid that just wanted to get by so I can keep playing football. But then once I started getting all these different offers from different schools, I was a C average student, and my test scores wasn't that great. So it kind of hindered me from end up becoming a Gator, But I won't take that. I don't regret my path that I went through. I had to do that so it can humble me and make me more resilient. So where I'm at today.
And that's such a great message there, Chaz. When you tell folks that about the recruiting process, and what's that? Is that one of those things where like you just didn't know going through it that, hey, what happens my 9th grade year? I mean, everybody hears offer junior, senior year, but as you said, a lot of kids and folks don't think about 9th, 10th grade year is kind of being the as you said, the groundwork that gets you there.
Right. Yeah. So, for me, I was the guinea pig. So, and another guy by the name of Franklin Green, we was basically guinea pigs. Nobody knew what it took to get to that point. Say, hey, we know you need good grades. We know you got to have a solid test score. But when it comes to the sliding scale, we didn't understand that from kids that's coming from a certain neighborhood in Savannah that, where nobody has those opportunities. So it was just one of those things that, hey, this is my first time experiencing this. But, now that we're here, we got to figure out how to fix it and get it corrected before signing day. We tried everything, but it didn't work out. So I ended up at Fort Union Military Prep and later on signing with South Carolina and the Gamecocks. And I had a decent career there, So the biggest thing is for the recruits, man, just, if you know that your goal is to play college football, start early. Don't wait until, like for me, I waited until Greg Schiano showed up at Jenkins High School and said, okay, I'm going to do my work now. So that's the biggest thing, it starts today. Like for freshmen, it starts day one when you walk into them school halls. Hey, I need all A's and B's, nothing below an 80.
And Chaz, beyond your football and your professional career, you're an author as well. You wrote a book. I know you've talked to us about that before, but for folks who don't know, talk about why that was important to you and what that process was like.
Well, me for becoming an author was just something that I was dealing with personally, and kind of sort of still dealing with it, but it's one of those things where I'm a dad and, I love my son to death and, it's one of them things that I was just going through mentally and trying to figure out how can I, overcome it. And writing the book was just kind of just releasing my emotions and just showing the world that, and just trying to encourage other dads like, hey, never give up, always fight for your children or your child or whatever the case may be. And just be there, whatever it takes, just be there. And that was the biggest message that I wanted to get out, when I wrote that particular book.
And Chaz, I mean, obviously, I get the love you have for your son and your voice and being able to become an author, but how much of that was discovered at a place like Columbia? People, obviously you came up, city, Savannah, then you go from there to Columbia, but people don't get that you kind of discover who you are outside of football while you're playing football. What did Chaz discover about himself that got discovered in Columbia?
Well, the biggest thing is, just playing the game of football and going outside of high school to college and then playing pro. Like it just like the game of football like basically saved my life and showed me different things. You know, like it took me out of a certain environment in Savannah and put me in Columbia, South Carolina, put me around different individuals that was able to, help groom me and show me, different. And once I started to learn that and put myself in different networks, and then you start to see yourself evolve as a young man into a man, and then start to see that, okay, there's other things that I can do to make, to make myself better individual. So I always tell myself when I wake up in the morning, hey, let's get 1% better today at whatever it is, So I know when I was in college, I said I want to write a book, but it wasn't a book that it wasn't a children's book. It was more so of a book of just being bitter about my transition from high school to college and the pro level and stuff like that. So it was just like, all right, well, I don't really want to do that. That's not really my main focus. That's just something that I just threw out there. But all right, what am I really passionate about? And I know I was passionate about my son today. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to write a book, and it's basically going to be depicting like me and him having a good time, just hanging out with each other and just just focusing on that father and son bond.
Chaz Sutton, our guest here on Three and Out. Chaz, really appreciate the time. Thanks so much.
All right, thank you guys for having me.
Appreciate it. Chaz Sutton, our guest here on Three and Out. We'll come back with more. Hit us up on Twitter at Pigskin Radio. Good to have you here, 3 and Out on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. We'll take 3 next hour. Also hear from Jason Foster, Georgia Southern quarterback, former Georgia Southern quarterback, next hour as well. So looking forward to that as we talk more college football with you. Ben, I know you had a quick shout out you wanted to throw out there as well.
Big time game this weekend, man. Shout out to them Evan Knights, the 10U football team on a undefeated season, 9-0, capped off by claiming the East Georgia Pop won a 10U championship. And shout out to the parents. Shout out to all the parents right there, but shout out to Coach Eric Harris, CJ Baldwin, Frank Meter, and Chad Joyner. But man, would be remiss if I didn't go down the list of these young ballers. I'm talking about because I know Aiden, JC, Javion, Jason, Charles, Grant, Joseph, Colton, Tyler, Ethan, Elijah, John, Brody, Troy, Elijah, Noah, Jack, Cameron, Lloyd, Ian, Julian, and my nephew Ryan. Shout out to them Evan Knights, that 10U football team, all in with the parent game. The most supportive parents we've had in the youth sports period. They hit the road for regional play this weekend in their quest for the national title. It's go time for them Evans Pop Warner, and they got a big time game tomorrow at 11. Shout out to them. Yep. Shout out to them Evans Knights, 10U. Go Knights.
Good to have you back here. Hour 2 of 3 and Out. We'll hear from Jason Foster this hour, former Georgia Southern quarterback and 2007 Walter Payton Award winner. He will join us. We'll talk about going away from a little bit more of an option-based, I'll say that, option-based offense to what Clay Helton is going to do. He, of course, played for Chris Hatcher, who was nothing option-based there when he ran the air raid at Georgia Southern. So I'll hear from Jason Foster coming up in just a little bit. But first, fellas, let's take 3 here on 3 and Out. All right, take 1. How seriously Odell Beckham got released on his birthday, no less. How seriously, if you were the Falcons, would you pursue Odell Beckham to help out your receiving corps?
Yeah, and I kind of don't understand what happened with the Browns. I mean, why have they not been giving him the football? He's one of the best wide receivers in the National Football League, and we've seen stretches in his career where he's absolutely dominating. I mean, I think teams all over the league are going to be looking at this saying, okay, and Ben, you were explaining to me kind of how the waiver process works and contracts, and there are certainly some details there, but I think every team in the league is looking at it as, yes, we can add this guy and make us better. And if you're a team like Atlanta, where you've been, probably average and you feel like you're a couple of players away from maybe taking a step forward, this is a guy that could potentially make you a more viable playoff contender. I mean, I don't know what the hesitation would be for any team. He's in his prime. He's been one of the 3 to 4 best wide receivers in the National Football League. He immediately makes your offense better. He's one of the guys that, even if you're on the field, he makes you better. And that is if you're occasionally giving him the football. I mean, in Atlanta or whoever, I think he's a priority pass catcher, and you get him the ball and he makes your passing game better and obviously makes your team better. So yes for Atlanta, yes for anybody. Speaking of Atlanta wide receivers, want to wish the best to Calvin Ridley with what he's going through right now. But yes, I think every team in the league looks at Odell Beckham and says, yes, that guy can make us a better football team immediately.
Yes, and I mean you take it extremely serious. I mean, for everything you said, BJ, and you get to get him for cheap. You don't have to pick up the contract that he signed when he went to Cleveland, when he first signed in New York, and you still get a quality football player that's motivated. I don't understand what happened in Cleveland either. I mean, when I first saw him getting a team up with Jarvis Landry and Ben Njoku and Austin Hooper, and when that running game with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, I thought it was going to be one of the best offenses in football. But Baker Mayfield is a quarterback, so that's another conversation for another day. But Odell Beckham Jr. turned 29 today. He got some of the best news. Man, you're no longer in Cleveland, but the problem with that is, you're no longer anywhere. You got to wait on somebody to pick you up. And if I'm not mistaken, teams can't claim him until Monday. But think about it. Arguably, the best receiver and running back is the same guy for Atlanta, Cordell Patterson. Same guy. So Cordell get to say, hey, man, I don't know if it's going to take some running back snaps out of his away from him, Kevin, but you get a chance to get Odell Beckham Jr. This is not a debate. I mean, BJ, I'm just saying, it's Odell Beckham Jr. Outside of the fact that he want to dye his hair other colors, get him on the squad, let him go out there and play some big-time football in the division that you're going to need all the help you can get. So, yes, the Falcons should be very, very serious about getting a guy like Odell, because you get to get him for 1 year, and he's in a prove-it year, because nobody's going to be giving him more than not much more than league minimum. You get to get a quality player at a bargain price. Sounds like a good deal to me.
And we'll see. I don't think the Falcons have a chance. Again, if you wanted out of Cleveland, you're probably going to want to sign with a contender or a team that you think you can win a Super Bowl with. So I think he's now got the choice, and my guess would be he signs with somebody that he feels like can get him to a Super Bowl. We've got to take 2. Who is the worst team in the National Football League?
All right, I don't think it's Jacksonville, and we were talking.
Yards.
Yeah. Jets gave up like 700 yards. I don't think it's Jacksonville. Jacksonville has the win, and you're looking at Detroit. Detroit's 0-8, and listen, they've been close a couple of times. Played Baltimore within 2, played Minnesota within 2, but you look at the stretch of recent games. You played Cincinnati and lost 34-11. You played Philadelphia in your last game on Halloween and lost 44-6. So not only are you winless, you are winless and have really struggled lately. So I know some around the league may say Jacksonville. I know Jacksonville's played poorly, clearly in a lot of games, but I think you're winless, and in your last game you lost by 38 points. I think I have to go with the Detroit Lions.
BJ, this is the one time I definitely got to agree with you. I don't know why we're trying to go. Of course it's Detroit. Of course it is. One team went 1-15, the other team went 0-16, and if they keep going, they're going to go 0-17. One team's greatest receiver is Jimmy Smith. The other team's greatest receiver is Calvin Johnson. And guess who was on the 0-16 team? Calvin Johnson. Not even Calvin Johnson could help Detroit. So yes, BJ, it is the Detroit Lions. That is where they send coaches to just, hey, listen, man, we're going to pay you to deal with this nonsense. I don't even know if we have a fan base. I don't even know if they make calls in Detroit anymore. So I'm just saying everything left Detroit. Barry Sanders, Calvin Johnson. Matthew Stafford finally got to get the hell up out of there. And Dan Campbell, like, I can fix it. Yeah. A former tight end get to go up there and be the best coach they had. Nope, got rid of Coach Caldwell when they was winning games. It is the Detroit Lions. They don't make calls. They don't make stars. I don't know what the hell they do, but they got a chance of Kevin. Listen, it is harder. It is harder to go 0-17 than it is to go 17-0. And they are about to do it again. Nobody wants to be the team and say, oh, BJ, do Jacksonville play Detroit? I'm going to have to look at the schedule because that might be the brawl for it all. But Jacksonville at least has a win. It is the Detroit Lions.
I think when you see guys coming in here and putting in work, wasn't he crying the other day about how hard they were working?
Look,
at the press conference?
Let me tell you something. When Dan Campbell says things like, quote, Jared Goff, he got to give us more. Give us more of what? Like, this is
can he give you any less?
No. Listen. I went 4-12 my rookie year, 5-11 my second year, so we did improve. But the thing about it is it is hard to win in the NFL. Listen, winning in the NFL is like getting 6 wins in college football. It is the hardest thing to do. But it is impressive to go 16-0. That's impressive. And now Dan Campbell was like, I can one up. They took away a preseason game, BJ, added a regular season. I'm gonna go 17-0. I'm 0-17. You want to be remembered forever? You go 0-17, Dan Campbell. Because once again, BJ, I be telling y'all, just because you're a head coach, don't mean it's prestige. There is nothing prestige about Detroit right now. Shout out to Darius Slay, who is no longer in Detroit. He is in the city of brotherly love with the Philadelphia Eagles. But yes, BJ and Kevin, it is Detroit, and I don't even think it's close.
They're so bad. So bad. I know you can say the Jags, BJ, but I mean, I think the phrase you uttered in the office the other day applies here for the NFL as well. Just saying.
Say, look, man, my team's bad, but dang.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
No, seriously. I mean, if a Jacksonville fan and a Detroit fan meet up and a Detroit fan like, look at y'all, look at us. What? Like, at least our excuse is rookie head coach, rookie first round pick, and our average age is 20-something-year-olds.
Yeah.
Like 24 and younger. What's y'all excuse? Jacksonville
puts bags over seats. Detroit Lions fans put bags over their heads.
Rob Gronkowski quit football when they got traded to Detroit. I will quit. I will not play. And now his contract is void. That's how he ended up in Tampa. That is a true fact right there. Shout out to the GOAT Rob Gronkowski for having business sense.
Can't do it. Can't play in Detroit. All right, moving along. Take 3. Finally, maybe the most important discussion that we've had in a while. But what type of milk do you drink? This was a subject of much consternation in the office the other day. So we thought we'd bring it to the scene and talk it out.
It was really interesting how kind of back and forth this conversation became, and I was surprised at a lot of the results. There was a lot of anger directed my way, which I didn't really understand. You and I both, Kevin, were kind of getting it from the rest of the office. And here's the thing. All right. Growing up, it was either 2% milk or 1% milk, and I like both. I could even do skim milk. I think my preference right now is probably 1% milk. I think it just tastes good. I think it's refreshing. It's not thick. It's something you can, put with cereal, whatever. And I even like the almond milk. I like the almond milk. The almond milk is good. I like it. But listen, it is 1% milk. What are you doing, Ben? It's 1% milk, and I was surprised at how mad y'all got.
No, hold on. One. Okay, BJ, would you eat one? I want the 1% meat. No, I don't want the meat. I want the 1%. No, this BJ. Okay, we talked about this. BJ looked at me and said, "Hey, dude, what kind?" I said, "Man, I drink whole milk." BJ like, "What?" I want milk. Like 1%, 2%, 5%. Listen, I am John Troop's son. That cap better be red and that milk better be whole. That's what's going on in the Troop household. All I'm saying is, BJ, this goes back to the Super Bowl commercial not too many years ago when they was drinking the milk and it really had the chunks in it. And BJ was like, and BJ was like, no.
That is gross.
It is. Listen, I can't deal with the chunks. Now, I don't want chunky milk. I'm just, no, but I have to drink whole milk. I'm sorry. And BJ looking at me like, are you an adult? Yes, full grown adult. And when I leave here, I'm going to eat some cereal with whole milk in it. That's what I'm going to do. I'm not 1%. I'm not 5%. You know, I'm just saying, and listen.
There is no 5%.
1%, 2%. I don't want a percentage.
Hold on. Because none of us exactly knew what was going on. Was it PJ or Christian? Didn't we actually get clarity as to what all this meant? Do you remember? Do either of you remember?
I just remember you.
I think it's a fat to liquid ratio.
I mean, no. I know what it was. And this is even that. Somebody was eating mayonnaise out the jar. And I was like, that's nasty. And BJ was like, you don't eat mayonnaise. BJ go, I don't eat mayonnaise. It started with sour cream. BJ go, I don't eat sour cream. Like, it's nasty. I said, dude, sour cream is delicious. Like, no, it's not. It's just fat. I go, and then he go, I said, like milk. He goes, I said, I drink whole milk. BJ like, you drink whole. BJ hits you with that. Are you an adult? Yes, I am an adult. And BJ go, and this what happened. I say something. BJ said something. BJ go, let's ask the office. Because I'm like, okay, let's get it. So yes, I'm a whole milk drinker, and I'm gonna be a whole milk drinker for life, forever. I'm not, because 1% milk look blue and 2% milk is nasty. No, give me the whole milk all day long. And BJ don't eat sour cream. BJ doesn't eat whipped cream. That's what it was. But BJ will eat dried up vegetables with salsa. That's nasty. That's nasty, but hey, it goes down.
I mean, aren't we supposed to eat vegetables? Like, isn't that part of the plan?
No, I think I was amazed at how many people got upset at what other people do with their milk. Like, I've had this going back to even when I was back in the day in college. I was like, what do you like? I like skim milk. What, you like that white water on your cereal? I'm like, I'm not asking you to drink it. Why you? But no, listen, I will say this. If we're going to say what kind of milk do you drink, you can't come to the conversation with almond milk. One, that is not milk. Two, that would be like us having a conversation on the show about steak and saying, how do you like your steak? You say, well, I eat tofu. No, then you're out of the conversation. You're not in this conversation.
Ben, how do you like your steak? Kevin brought it up.
Business. It's none of your business how. No.
Shoe leather.
Exactly. I've come a long way since then, BJ, but I like what Kevin said. Do you guys have soy milk? You guys have cashew milk?
Have y'all ever had the almond milk? Have y'all ever? It's good. You can get it in regular or like vanilla chocolate almond milk.
Of course. When it's flavored, like, could you give me the vanilla soy milk, please? That should be sir. It's on the menu. Yeah, right down there. It says a big hell no. We don't have that.
Why would you drink it when you could just drink the real thing?
Well, Kevin, per Ben, apparently you and I drinking 1% in skim milk. That's not the real thing, per Ben.
No, it's white. No, it's white water. It do look like white water. That's what it looks. And Kevin said, no. We have like Kevin says. Look, Kevin's biggest pet peeves are, there's no such thing as double fudge, double chocolate. I don't want to hear that crap.
There's no triple chocolate. No, there's not.
But this is the same
Christian. No, there's not.
But this is the same Kevin
made up
that will go to a restaurant and order the boneless wings. There is no such thing as a boneless wing. That is a chicken strip.
We all have hills we want to die on. Mine's the triple chocolate. Ben's is the chicken strip boneless wing. Apparently, BJ's is almond milk.
No. It's how they ask me. When I ask for the wings, they go boneless or traditional. What the hell? It is only a traditional wing with a bone in it. And BJ don't eat sour cream, whipped cream, or mayonnaise, but he would put salsa on some nasty as hell vegetables. And we got some crazy.
On some dried out snow peas.
Oh yeah, it'd be on snow peas. Yes.
That's take 3. We'll end it right there. We got more to come. Jason Foster this hour. We're talking Georgia Southern football with the 2007 Walter Payton Award winner. It is 3 and Out here on this Friday. Good to have you back here, 3 and Out. Kevin, BJ, and Ben. We'll get to our picks coming up at the top of the final hour of the show. We'll hear from Jason Foster, 2007 Walter Payton Award-winning quarterback at Georgia Southern here in just a little bit. But Georgia this week, back at it against Missouri, and a lot of storylines off the field, on the field. BJ, going into this one, Jamari Sawyer expected to miss the next couple of weeks with a foot injury for the University of Georgia. So you lose one of those bedrocks there on the offensive line. And, of course, a lot of Georgia fans have read the news by now. Linebacker Adam Anderson has been suspended indefinitely after being accused of rape. He has not been arrested and denied the allegations through his attorney. So that investigation is ongoing, and he has been suspended indefinitely while that investigation is taking place. They'll be without him, and you'll find out later this afternoon, Connor Bazelak for Missouri not going to play this weekend as well. So as if the uphill battle wasn't big enough for Missouri, it got a little taller there.
Yeah, and with Anderson, very, very serious, very concerning allegations, and the right call, suspended indefinitely, and situation where the legal system, the system will take some time, obviously, to thoroughly investigate this, and then on the injury front, Jamari Sawyer, a guy that can play guard and tackle for Georgia, NFL player, very good player. I think if you're looking at him, Sawyer being out for a couple of weeks, maybe the Tennessee game is a game that probably on paper feels like that's the bigger challenge than Missouri. And then with Missouri, they do have the SEC's leading rusher, I believe, in Tyler Batty. I think he's over 900 yards rushing, but you talk about facing the best defense. Maybe we've seen him maybe a generation, one of the top defenses of the last 15, 20 years, and you're not going to have your starting quarterback in Bazelak. There's not going to be a lot of production. You're going to struggle to get first downs. And the line, I think, a lot of people were surprised when the line came out at 38. And I think when Bazelak was announced that he's not going to go, I think it even went up higher than that. So Missouri's going to have a significant challenge on Saturday.
Yeah, Georgia dealing with injuries, dealing with players, dealing with things off the field. BJ, as you mentioned, and I just think for this Georgia team, sometimes when you talk about the road to a championship, you're gonna have bumps in the road, you're gonna have trials and tribulations, seen and unforeseen situations. But it just goes with it. As you mentioned, with Anderson, you just gotta let the legal system play out. We can't comment on things we don't know too much about, but we're gonna let the legal system play out. You talking about Jamari Sawyer, BJ. You feel bad for him, but the thing about this offensive line, they've been retooling all year, who the best 5 guys, but you got to play and plug a guy. Connor Bazelak not being there for Mizzou is going to hurt. But I saw a stat that really sums up how great this Georgia defense is. Georgia defense has created more points because of turnovers than they've given up all year. They've created more points off of turnovers than they've given up all year. But this Georgia team, BJ and Kevin, understands that they are the hunted. Regardless of how good they play, this November is going to be crazy, because just because you got number 1 next to your name doesn't mean that people you don't get the opposing team best effort. I do think, BJ, that Tennessee game is going to be a bigger game. But look, I just think that when you're talking about a team like Georgia who has big time postseason aspirations, this is just a part of another week, but they're going to have to find a way. They say that pressure is a privilege down there. We're going to see how good they handle the pressure. But yeah, this defense about as good as I've ever seen at Georgia.
Yeah, and again, they've got just a handful of games left to finish the deal here in the regular season. I think we all know what the deal is here for the Dogs, BJ, and that is 4 more wins, and it probably doesn't matter what you do in the SEC championship game. You're in the college football playoff at the end of the day. But certainly Missouri this week without Connor Bazelak, like you were telling me, hey, they may not get a first down this weekend. And again, it's going to be up. This is a team that struggled to beat Vanderbilt last week, so it was going to be a big challenge anyway. But I think Georgia still wins pretty handily this week, and you see if any of this catches up to them against Tennessee in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, I think when you look at the remaining schedule, and correct me if I'm wrong, guys, off the top of my head, I believe you have Missouri, Tennessee, maybe Charleston Southern, and Georgia Tech, I think, are your final 4. You're going to be heavily favored, of course, in all of those games. I think going to Neyland with an offense, Hendon Hooker's been really good. I think he's in the top 5 or 10 in the country in passer rating. You are talking about a team that could present some challenges. Played Alabama close for 3 quarters. I still think Georgia will be obviously a multi-score favorite. And then, Georgia Tech at the end of the year, Georgia Tech has not been going in the right direction. Played Virginia Tech close, but not able to finish games, still struggling a little bit offensively there, with Jeff Sims and Jahmyr Gibbs. Maybe the offense not quite as productive consistently week to week. Some concerns about play calling and coordinators over the last couple of weeks coming out of fans from Georgia Tech. So I think you feel pretty confident that Georgia's going to win out the regular season. And to me, I know we've talked to a couple of analysts who have said, listen, Georgia, as long as they don't lose 42-6, I think even if they lose 42-6, if Georgia goes to the SEC championship game and gets blown out, but they're undefeated, they are in the college football playoff. You just went undefeated in the SEC, lost to Alabama, who the committee's telling us right now is the number 2 team in the country behind Georgia. So the best team you could play if you're Georgia is Alabama per the committee. I know people don't value the Clemson win anymore, but at that time, that was a team that was top 5. You easily defeated Florida. You easily defeated Auburn, who very, very quickly has moved back into the national top, 15? So I think Georgia, if they win out in the regular season as expected, maybe a slight test at Tennessee, but I think if you win out, you are in the college football playoff, even if you lose in lopsided fashion in Atlanta.
Isn't it crazy how fast the tides turn? No pun intended. If Georgia goes to Atlanta without having to beat Alabama, but BJ, what if they do? Still beat Alabama, just to add icing on the cake. You be the reason why Alabama doesn't go back to the college football playoff. But yeah, Georgia's going to be all about controlling what they can control, not letting distractions get in the way. Whether that's teammates of theirs dealing with things off the field or players that's hurt right now. I mean, we forget all about the fact that George Pickens, out before the season started. Darnell Washington didn't play in a number of games. Harris Jackson, and Stetson Bennett being the starter, that just shows how great of a team Georgia is. But they're gonna have to finish the deal, Kevin, because as we know, what we love the most about college football is 2 things. One, to see the team you can't stand lose, and the unpredictability of it. Well, I don't see Georgia losing, but that unpredictability happens every week. I don't think Mizzou is going to do anything but get the brakes beat off them, but that's why we watch, and that's why we will be watching.
And we've got more to come here on 3 and Out. We'll chat with Jason Foster, former Georgia Southern quarterback, Heisman, basically FCS Heisman Trophy, won the Walter Payton Award in 2007. He'll join us when we come back here on 3 and Out on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Good to have you along here on 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Kevin, BJ, and Ben, glad you're making us a part of your day. And Georgia Southern new head coach Clay Helton announced yesterday in Statesboro, and joining us here on the program, a 2007 Walter Payton Award winner at quarterback there for Georgia Southern. Jason Foster joins us here on 3 and Out. Jason, welcome to the show. How are you?
Good. Thank y'all for having me. How are you?
Hey, man, we are doing fantastic. Of course, a lot of folks, when they think Georgia Southern, talk about the option. You actually ran quarterback, not in an option, and Clay Helton coming in saying, look, we may have a few plays that have an option in them, but we're going to go away from that. How difficult of a transition do you think that's going to be for Georgia Southern? You were a part of one that kind of went away from it as well.
Right. Well, I think they got talented quarterbacks, so I think it can be done. I think they'll have much success in it. And with the day where high school football is going now, there are not a lot of true option teams. So I think we'll transition just fine. And I think the quarterbacks will do well.
Jason, I know you played a couple of different positions before becoming a record-setting quarterback at Georgia Southern, but what was it like for the team, for the offense? I believe Mike Seawalk, then Brian Van Gorder, then Chris Hatcher, going from the the traditional flex bone, to different offenses with Van Gorder and Hatcher.
Right. To start off with, it's pretty difficult because you different terminology, different way to read plays, but you get into your playbook, and once you get the hang of it, I think it's just about playing football, and you really want to just generate points. So you're really not worrying about what offense it is. As long as it's working, points to get on the board, I think that kind of solves the problem right there, and everyone's happy.
And Jason, when you think about the, what a lot of offenses do now with the RPOs, the run pass option, how much more better is an offense when you got a player of your caliber that can use his arms, use his legs, but you still understand the fundamentals of playing the position while still playing within the confines of that system?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be a tremendous advantage for us because using your legs, the longer you can stay alive in the pocket, obviously the more people become open. When you have that threat of running, defenses just can't drop 8 or play umbrella coverages. So I think being able to do both, and with the talent we have at quarterback, the speed we have at running back and receivers, I think that's going to be even more of an advantage to us. So if we can get that down and get an intermediate passing game, I don't think obviously we're not going to be throwing bombs every play, but I think you hit the 15-yard out, 10-yard outs and curls. I think adding that in with the RPO, I think Georgia Southern offense is going to skyrocket and be on its way.
Jason, how much do the offensive line responsibilities change in a transition like that?
Yeah, they're going to be the key part to it because you can draw up all the plays you want, but if they can't block it, you kind of got to scrap that play, scrap this play. So I really think they're going to be the vital part of it. I think Coach Hilton, he's going to get a feel of what they can and cannot do. And once he gets that down packed, I can definitely see plays being added and plays being taken away. So to me, that's going to be the main key.
A lot of talk about what the offensive identity will be. And we talked about that. Is there a specific scheme? I mean, in 2007, you guys were incredibly productive with Coach Hatcher. Was the offensive identity established in spring ball? Did it take a couple of games into the season? Was there one kind of set of goals, or were you guys kind of versatile throughout the year?
We definitely had a goal, but to score points, but we kind of had an identity as we got through the spring and through the spring game that really was on your third down plays, who's going to get the ball. And I think everybody kind of knows what plays are going to be called. So I think Georgia Southern kind of has to develop that identity. And I know it seems like they struggled a little bit with this year so far as third down, who's getting the ball, what play is coming. I think through the spring ball, they're really going to have to kind of decide, hey, this is what we're going to be. Are we going to be a power team? Are we going to be able to throw screens? Are we going to get out on the edge? You always fall back to your base plays when it's kind of crunch time. So I'll be anxious to see what they come up with.
I think Coach Helton's going to end up wanting to do in an offense like this. He want to have a playmaker quarterback. Because like I said, they could do the RPOs, build that trust, build that confidence. But just talk about when you in a system that specializes in what you do, when your instincts take over, how much easier the game is and how much better you make those guys around you.
Right, yeah, that's very good point. Instincts take over, and you'll see it throughout a game, and you'll see a quarterback kind of ad-lib a play. You'll see if the running back's hot. Once you know what's coming, and you can almost call the game in your head. Sometimes you can call your own plays. You get comfortable enough with your coaching staff, they'll let you call your own plays. So I think once your instinct takes over, I think that's when you really have a grasp of the offense, and you'll see 30 and 40-point games going up on the scoreboards, and you see a lot of them in college now. But that's because kids are so good coming out of high school. It's a lot of personal training going on. So when they get to college, they're ahead of the curve. You know, I said when we went to college, we did a lot of learning, but now you get a kid who can be a freshman and go in there and play right away. So I think that's definitely an advantage and something that they'll be looking forward to for a quarterback to be able to do.
Jason Foster joining us here on 3 and Out, and Georgia Southern gets Clay Helton, the guy who was head coach at Southern Cal. What was your kind of thoughts on the hire when you heard about it?
I think it's big for Georgia Southern because obviously we moved up in the classification, so your coaching has to match. I'm definitely was a Coach Luncher guy, being that he coached with me, but you definitely need a change. And the real key is going to be, can you recruit, especially this area? I know it's a lot of talent here, and I know he mentioned in one of his interviews I watched earlier. So being able to recruit and retain players is going to be a big part of it, just as much as the X's and O's. So you got to be able to out recruit your opponent, and I think he's going to be able to bring that. Obviously, his offenses have been, very good wherever his years at USC. So definitely look to see the offense get on track and kind of you can score points. You can fill up the stadium, so that's always a good thing. And then also scoring points brings in more recruits. So I think he's going to be a good fit. They got him under a 5-year contract. We're paying the guy good money. So I'm anxious to see what happens.
A lot of talk at the press conference and in the media about Georgia Southern as a national brand. You think about the national championships, 6 of them. You think about, guys like you and Tracy Ham and Adrian Peterson. What's it like from your perspective watching Georgia Southern only continue to grow in profile and stature and be a program that is talked about around the country?
Oh, man, it's exciting. You can brag to your friends, too, hey, Georgia Southern's on TV or Georgia Southern's doing this. So it's definitely a good thing that they're growing, expanding, hiring big-time coaches, bigger names. And it goes a long way just for the university itself when hey, this guy's a football coach here. It brings people to the area. I know you go back and you see Adrian down there and you see Tracy still around campus. All those things makes a difference to the community around it. And I believe Coach Helton coming is just that much more special, and I think it's going to create even a better vibe for Georgia Southern football.
I mean, Jason, they got the right hire. Now they got to get the players in there to see what guys that they can be holdovers for. When you talk about what they're trying to implement offensive wise, but what is it going to be like when your Georgia Southern Eagles are finally hosting a Sun Belt championship?
Man, that'll be awesome, right? That's what we're all looking forward to, and I think the community we all want, and I think it's we feel like we deserve it because we moved up in classification. We've been working hard, and I think this guy can bring it to it. And I know everybody wants to get down to the game and pack the stadium up. You know how Paulson can get, especially at nighttime. So I'm more than ecstatic for it, and I'm ready for it.
Jason Foster, our guest here on 3 and Out. Jason, we appreciate the time. Thanks so much.
I thank y'all for having me.
Appreciate it. Jason Foster, our guest here, 2007 Walter Payton Award winner, talking about that transition there to Coach Helton and saying, look, the receivers and quarterbacks, it's about learning the playbook. Offensive linemen, it's more about learning the techniques and things that the coaches want you to do.
Yeah, and I mean, you look at Georgia Tech and their transition is, of course, not the exact same thing as Georgia Southern has not been running the true flex bone or the true dive option, I think is the phrase we've heard. Ben, I don't know how much of a transition it was for y'all offensively from Steve Spurrier to Ron Zook, but I do think there's going to be a process, right? I mean, that's only natural, and I don't know necessarily that there's a definite kind of clarification in terms of what the expectations are. We were talking about it earlier in the show. Do we have to be 50-50? Are we going to, you heard Jason say, I don't think we're going to be throwing bombs. It's the intermediate passing routes. And I agree, can you have those 15-yard, 10-yard, 12-yard conversions? I think that's where maybe the biggest change is going to have to occur. And I think proficiency is going to be the key where, can you complete a high percentage of your passes? I think that's going to be a new element. And just honestly, I don't think that's something that you're going to be next year the same team in game 1 that you are in game 7, that you are in game 12. I think it's going to take some time. And I also think spring practice is going to be very important.
It's going to come down to execution. And the reason why I kept talking to Jason about instinct, BJ, but before there was, BJ, we saw Michael Vick, but he was playing instinctual football, and then you see a Cam Newton, right? He was playing instinctual football. Do you see a Lamar Jackson? That's instinctual football. Now, I don't know how many guys got drafted on the Cam Newton's team. I don't think any receivers got drafted with Lamar Jackson. But if I got a playmaker at the quarterback position, and I'm saying, look, I want you to go from quarterback to playmaker to instinctual player, it's only going to make the team better. So we'll see what happens, because obviously it's all speculation right now. But if you got a quarterback that can do everything you ask and still play within the confines of the system, that keeps you ahead of the chains, that don't turn the ball over, you got a shot to be real good, real fast, regardless of when they waiting to get those horses on the outside.
Absolutely. We've got more to come here on 3 and Out, all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Good to have you back here on 3 and Out. We'll get to our college football picks coming up in just a little bit. We'll hear from Ben Ingram, Braves Radio Network. If you missed that yesterday, talking about this Braves unbelievable season. And we'll hear from Jared Binko, who we had a chance to speak with about his newest hire, Clay Helton, there as the head football coach at Georgia Southern. But BJ and Ben, obviously, starting, I think, today, you had the opening statements, the opening arguments, I guess, in the Ahmad Arbery trial in Brunswick. And that certainly has captivated a lot of attention, not just here in the state of Georgia, but all over the country.
It has. And the thing about it is Kevin, as you mentioned, it is opening arguments. Look, our hearts and prayers goes out to Ahmad Arbery's family. And I understand that everybody deserves due process. When you talk about, in the eyes of the law, everybody's innocent until proven guilty, things of that nature. But, this is going to be one of those, Kevin and BJ, the way you say, look, man, I mean, when you're from the Golden Isles, when you're from Brunswick, Georgia, I don't think it should be known for something catastrophic, but this will be a part of the history of coastal Georgia forever. But we're just praying, we're praying for justice, but we're definitely praying that Ahmad Arbery's family understand that not just the Golden Isles, not just coastal Georgia, but the entire world will be watching, and we just praying for the right thing to be done.
I think that's well said, Ben. And, just continue to pray and think about Ahmad's family and friends. Pray for them, pray for justice, pray for the community. Just horrific, unfathomable. And I think, to continue to pray is very important, is very meaningful. And Ben, I just think it's well said. It's really, difficult and emotional to think about. And I just think continue to, pray for him, his family, his loved ones, his friends, and the community over the next couple of days, next couple of weeks, certainly, for sure.
And again, now we'll see how this trial unfolds, but all well said by both of you guys. I will echo those sentiments here on the show, as well as that gets started today. And again, we'll go on until they reach a resolution in that trial. And as you said, you just hope for justice in that situation to be done at the end of the day. So we've got that to get to as we see it play out. And certainly, BJ, as we head into the weekend, a lot still to come. We'll get to our picks coming up in just a little bit. But we are still 5 weeks of college football. It's starting to feel cold outside, and you're starting to feel playoff time in high school football. I know last week of the regular season this week, but the weather turning cold, and you start to get down to where each week is going to decide how this thing potentially plays out.
Yeah, of course. And I think, some big high school football games tonight in terms of state implications, in terms of playoff implications, and certainly wishing the best to all the student athletes out there that have worked so hard for a chance to make it to the state playoffs. And a number of local teams have already solidified their spots for the postseason. But I think, Kevin, up and down the coast, there are games tonight where playoff implications are on the line. I think PJ Zuko digitally will have Johnson and Beach tonight, playoff implications there. And then with college football, talking to some of the guests about kind of how the playoff scenario is going to work out. I mean, Kevin, you say this every year. When I start going, what if this happens? What if this happens? You'll say, well, it generally works itself out. And then you look at the Big Ten schedule. There are games where you'll have Ohio State, Michigan State, for example. Alabama's got Auburn in the Iron Bowl, and we kind of forgot about Auburn, but they're in a different position right now. Cincinnati's going to have to worry about SMU potentially later in the year, maybe even twice. So these games, when we get close to kind of championship time, you think you know what's going to happen. You think you have it figured out, but you never know. And look, there are some really interesting games even outside of kind of the national championship race. Georgia Southern has Coastal Carolina in Statesboro. And that's an opportunity against a nationally ranked team for Coach Whitley and his staff to go out and make a statement. Georgia Tech, it's been probably a disappointing couple of weeks for Georgia Tech. They're at Miami. Believe it or not, Georgia Tech has had some success in that series against Miami in recent years. I mean, is there some frustration with some coordinators potentially at Georgia Tech? So fascinating storylines. And I think tomorrow in the SEC, Ben, the most interesting game might be Texas A&M and Auburn. That's number 13 and 14, I believe. So, yes, this time of year, big games and a lot on the line.
Not to get into my football speak, BJ and Kevin, but I mean, around this time, you hear the same things. I mean, separation is through preparation. I mean, that's what you hear all the time, man. We separate ourselves through how we prepare. I mean, your altitude will be determined by your attitude. I mean, I know this stuff sounds quirky, but this stuff, it makes all the sense in the world. And who has staying power? Staying power is not who's the best team, who's built for this. Kevin, you said something. Hot teams don't like to play in the cold, and cold teams can't wait till it get cold, and it's going to favor some of those teams. Because you're talking about the Big Ten, PJ. The weather turning cold, that's what they used to. That little white stuff coming out the sky is not something we like to deal with, but they can't wait. But hey, Kevin, it's gonna come down to who has that staying power, who can deal with, who can handle the things that they can't foresee coming down the road, because November, this college football playoff is going to look totally different, not just in the coming weeks, but not just at the end of this 5 weeks, but every week coming up. But this is why you play, this is why you love it. But to Georgia, understand, everybody's coming for you. And if you go into the SEC championship game with an L, BJ, if Georgia goes in there with the L and they got to beat Alabama.
Whoa. And L to who? To who? A loss to who?
Listen, Ricky Waters. For who? For what? No. All I'm saying is, BJ, we have seen crazy things happen before. I'm just saying, BJ, I'm not saying it's going to happen.
To see something really crazy.
I'm just saying,
I don't see it. I mean, something really crazy.
Listen, all I'm gonna say is this.
I don't see it.
A quarterback playing receiver against Georgia at home beat them because we didn't see three picks with Israel.
I mean, not this Georgia team.
I think that's a big distinction there as well. They didn't have a defense that's given up 6 points a game here in 2021. That's a huge distinction. We'll come back. We'll get to our picks. Sure to go wrong. And they have been wrong quite a bit. We'll also hear from Jared Binko, Ben Ingram as well. It is 3 and Out. Hit us up on Twitter. We'd love to hear from you at Pigskin Radio. We are streaming live, ESPNCoastal.com, Facebook, Twitter, and you can find us on YouTube at ESPN Coastal. Good to have you back here. Final hour of 3 and Out. Kevin, BJ, and Ben. College football setting up for another very interesting weekend out there as the final 5 weeks. You got 4 games for most teams, championship game in that 5th week, and we are quickly coming down the home stretch of the college football season. BJ and Ben, we get to our picks. Sure to go wrong, and I will keep saying that as long as Cody Queen is leading our picks. I mean, again, explain
Rigged.
it. Explain it.
Lucky.
Hey, I'm a Central Florida fan. I also like LSU. What? I'm an
And Blake
LSU.
Bortles is
I'm an
also better than
LSU.
Cam Newton.
I'm an LSU supporter. Cody, the man of 1,000 teams. It's really what it is. But we get to the picks here. BJ, let's start tonight. You got a Friday night special in the ACC. Virginia Tech at Boston College. Boston College doing the red bandana game in honor of Wells Crowther, who lost his life on 9/11. So Virginia Tech goes to Boston College. They are a 2.5-point favorite. Virginia Tech going to Boston College.
Yeah, powerful tradition there at Boston College for that hero. Look, this is tough, man. It's the ACC, Kevin. I'm kind of on your way of thinking here with this, where it's like whatever you kind of think's going to happen, go the other way. I guess. Boston College, good defensively. They've had injuries, but still pretty good offensively as well. I think they're better at the line of scrimmage. So because of that, I will go Boston College.
I will go Boston College, BJ. Whenever you plan for something bigger than yourself and you at home, and obviously the season hasn't gone the way you thought. I mean, hasn't been the team that started the year off with, but yes, I will go with Boston College at home.
I actually went the other way because I'm like, I feel like everybody thinks Boston College will win at home. Therefore, you got to go with Virginia Tech. So I'm laying the 2.5 there for Virginia Tech. Missouri is at Georgia, and I think this line has moved since then. Connor Bazelak not playing. Georgia is laying 39.5 points, BJ and Ben.
All right. I don't feel good about this pick, but in some ways I feel like Missouri, and I want to be clear here because Christian said sometimes the picks will get posted online, and like when I pick a team to cover, they think I'm picking a team to win. No, going to be close. No, this is not going to be close. I'm talking about, Missouri covering the spread. This is not going to be close. But look at it like this. And they might get shut out, but I would expect this will be a game where Georgia late in the game is playing a lot of reserves, a lot of, young players, backups. If Missouri scores 10, granted that would be better than average, but Georgia's got to get 50. And I think it'll be a 28-35 point lead pretty early. But I wonder then, do you see a lot of backups just all around every position? So Georgia's going to completely, just run away with this game. But I think if you're giving me 40 points, basically, I will, I guess, pick Missouri to cover.
I mean, look, Missouri's going to cover for this reason alone. 14-0, it might as well be 100-0 for Georgia. Once Georgia goes up 14, Missouri's not going to move the ball. People to my Connor Bazelak. It wouldn't have mattered if Connor Bazelak was going to be. They still wasn't going to cover. Yes, BJ, I will take Missouri with the points because sometimes Georgia's trying to get them starters out as soon as possible once this game was out of hand. So hopefully there's going to be a lot of ball caps on the sideline, Kevin and BJ, in the second half. Missouri will cover.
Oh no, I'm laying 40. Look, it's going to happen, BJ. I've sat here week after week after week, and what have we said every week with Georgia? Oh, man, that's a lot of points. 19 was a lot against Florida. Oh, I will lay 39.5 Georgia and take the dogs in this one. Wake Forest, number 9, at North Carolina. They're an underdog on the road. North Carolina laying 2.5 points at home in a non-conference ACC matchup, if that makes any sense.
I mean, aside from that, if you're Wake Forest, how disrespected do you feel? You're like number 9 in the playoff poll. You're undefeated. Then you're playing a team that's unranked, and you're in the top 10 on the road, and you're the underdog. I understand North Carolina, Sam Howell, they were supposed to be a lot better, but I believe in Wake Forest. I think Wake Forest is going to actually keep going. This offense, how do you slow them down? Sam Hartman should be a Heisman Trophy candidate. Give me Wake Forest.
Yes, I'm gonna go with Wake Forest. I like Sam Howell. I do not like his cast of characters around him. They have underperformed. BJ, ever since the world started talking about North Carolina since last year, and he don't got those receivers out wide with De'Ami Brown and that two-headed monster at running back? No. Give me Wake Forest to continue winning. No one's going to care in the college football playoff polls, Kevin. But yes, Wake will continue winning.
Yeah, I'm getting 2 points. Yeah, I will go. I will take Wake Forest in this one, getting the 2.5. Liberty is at number 16. Ole Miss. Liberty again got a quarterback that in Malik Willis that may be one of the top ones off of the board in the NFL draft against another guy that might be one of the top guys off the board in Matt Corral in the NFL draft. Ole Miss laying 9.5.
Great quarterback matchup. And you're right. Could be the, number one, number two quarterbacks taken in some order with Corral and Willis. And remember, Malik Willis started his career at Auburn and went to Liberty. And Liberty's been really good. I think this season, not quite as good. Lost a game to Syracuse earlier in the year, had some close games. So I think it'll be close for a while. But in the end, I think Ole Miss bounces back from last week. And I will take Ole Miss to cover and win.
Yeah, I mean, I love Malik Willis as well. I think BJ, when you talking about quarterback play, if they will find you incredible talent, but I just think Matt Corral, Lane Kiffin, those guys are gonna keep with their winning ways. So giving them Ole Miss boys.
Yeah, I went with Ole Miss laying the 9.5 at home. I think Liberty gives them a good run, but 10 points with an offense that can put up 60 in a hurry. That's not much to worry about. Auburn, number 13 at number 14, Texas A&M, the Aggies are a 4.5-point favorite.
I have no idea, man. I mean, this feels like an ACC game in that you have no idea what to expect from either team. Texas A&M in the same season beat Alabama and had to get a last-minute score to beat Colorado. I mean, I have no idea. And Auburn every year, I guess if you're telling me that Auburn's getting over a field goal in a game that will probably be close, I will take Auburn with the points, getting 4.5 in this game.
I will take Auburn, BJ, because they're starting to do it again, right? I mean, no real expectations for this Auburn team. They go up to Penn State and lose. They are 6-2 on the season. They still control their own destiny to potentially represent the West in the SEC championship game. So for that, and I mean, while Texas A&M is good, they play down to bad competition. So give me them Auburn boys with a big dub against Texas A&M.
Yeah, I went with Auburn as well. Maybe a little much groupthink there, but give me the 4.5 for Auburn at Texas A&M. Auburn still controls their own destiny as well. Now, BJ, you get to one where you said you didn't know what was going to happen. Here's one you don't know what's going to happen. Number 17, Mississippi State at Arkansas. Mississippi State ranked and is a 4.5-point underdog as Arkansas is laying 4.5 at home.
I have no idea. I mean, I have no idea again. I mean, Mississippi State has played with some of the best teams in the SEC. They also, in week one, were getting blown out in the fourth quarter by Louisiana Tech. I don't know. I mean, I guess the Bulldogs have some momentum right now, maybe a little more than Arkansas. I don't know. Give me Mississippi State. I'm trying to think as I go, and there's no conviction to be found. There's no, I'm not learning more as I think. I'm even getting more confused. So yes, give me Mississippi State.
Mississippi State has been playing better as of late. That's why I'm doing my Kevin Thomas and going with Arkansas at home. I mean, look, this is one of those toss-up games. I mean, Mississippi State can blow out Arkansas. Arkansas can blow out Mississippi State, or this could be watching paint dry. Could somebody do something? So because I'm going to go with the team at home, give me them Arkansas boys. They seem to play a little different at home.
Yeah, I went Arkansas minus the 4.5 at home as well. Number 19, NC State is at Florida State. I think this is an ACC special game of the week. NC State is ranked. They're laying 2.5. Florida State's just kind of spitting and sputtering around. Probably means you should lean Florida State, but what you going to do, BJ?
It is going to be a close game, and I think that the fact that it's a close game makes me worry for Florida State. Notre Dame, close game, you lose. Jacksonville State, close game, you lose. I mean, you're talking about Clemson, close game, you lose. So because of that, I think it'll be close, but I will take NC State.
BJ. Ye of little faith. Jordan Travis is a guy that's probably one of the feel-good stories of college football when you look at the fact that he's developed a nice little passing game to go along with those legs. And if they get the ball to Corbin, I just think Florida State is a team that should have beaten Clemson a week ago. Let's go ahead and put that out there. I think they get back into that win column this week. I'll take them Florida State boys.
I'm going NC State laying the 2.5, and I probably shouldn't do it because this is one where I just feel it. The ranked ACC team going to lose at the end of the day. LSU is at number 2, Alabama. When did you think you would see this? Alabama laying 20 8.5 against LSU.
And I actually have confidence here. This is one where I do have confidence. Alabama is playing probably with a point to prove to affirm their college football playoff rankings. LSU has a lot of issues. I will take Alabama to cover.
Alabama gonna beat the LSU. I mean, and this is why. In the last 11 years, BJ, 10, 11 years, they've won one time, I think. And that was in 2019. Well, the 2019 LSU Tigers beat everybody. They haven't won since. So yes, and I know the LSU was coming in to walking wounded, both starting cornerbacks out. Miles Brennan in the transfer portal. I mean, Max Johnson, he only gets up for my Florida Gators. It's gonna get ugly. Giving them Alabama boys to cover.
Yeah, I think this is gonna be ugly. I took Alabama laying the 28.5. Tennessee is at number 18, Kentucky. Tennessee actually a favorite on the road against the Wildcats. They lay 1.
And maybe a look-ahead game for Tennessee, looking ahead to Georgia. I kind of don't understand the line. I think Kentucky, a balanced team, maybe a little more balanced than Tennessee. I will take the Wildcats at home.
Oh, man, the Wildcats are different at home. I mean, they just asked my Florida Gators, but I don't see no blocked field goals. I don't see that offense getting going. BJ, I like what Tennessee is doing, playing with a lot of momentum. Hendon Hooker finally got a chance to play. Seems to be playing well in Coach Hopper's offense, giving them boys from Knoxville.
Yeah, playing fast, playing quick. I'm taking Tennessee and traditionally have owned Kentucky in this series. I think at one point had a 30-plus year winning streak against the Wildcats. Give me Kentucky laying the 1. Final game up on the docket, Florida minus 20 against South Carolina.
Ben, I don't know what you think here. That's a lot. That's a lot for a team that's struggling a little bit. I think Florida wins. South Carolina trouble, offensively being consistent, closing out games. Florida wins, but Saturday night in Columbia, I think, I will take South Carolina with 20 points.
Listen, I don't know who come up with these schedules before the beginning. I mean, first game of the year, Florida got to play at 8:30. Now it's getting cold. They got to play at 9:30. I can't even stay up, past 8 o'clock. I do think Florida gets to win, Kevin and BJ, but it makes me very, very nervous because Anthony Richardson, while they say he's in concussion protocol, he's getting brand new Dodges. And then when you talk about Emory Jones, he's a good teammate. Florida, just get the win. I don't care if it's 17-16 slobber knocker. Get the dub. I'm going to go with Florida. But that 20 points, that kind of stuff makes me nervous.
Yeah, I'm going to go South Carolina getting 20. I think Florida probably wins, but it's close. A week that's been interesting. Dan Mullen talking about, we'll talk about recruiting later, and nobody's going to talk to anybody this week. We're just going to shut it down and focus on ourselves. I think Florida wins. South Carolina, though, going to cover that 20. We've got so much to get to here in the final hour of the program. We'll hear from Ben Ingram. We had a chance to speak with him yesterday, Braves Radio Network, about just the amazing Brave season. They had the parade, a celebration today there in Atlanta. We'll hear from him next here on 3 and Out. That's our conversation earlier with Jared Binko. We'll come back with more 3 and Out on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Good to have you back here on 3 and Out. Kevin, BJ, and Ben, thanks for making us a part of your day. If you missed our conversation with Jared Binko, you can go to espncoastal.com or go to our YouTube page, And you can catch that interview there in the podcast version of the show. But college football this weekend should be a lot of fun. The new rankings coming out on Tuesday, BJ and Ben, and we'll see what the college football world looks like, knowing that obviously these Big Ten matchups are going to happen. Alabama and Auburn still left to play. A lot of things yet to be decided.
Yeah, and Wake Forest there at number 9 taking on North Carolina. I mean, if they win, depending upon what happens, I mean, do you keep, like Ben, you said earlier when we were making our picks, you said Wake Forest wins, no one cares. So, I mean, it's interesting to see how the rankings that come out reflect what happens. But yeah, I mean, there's always unpredictability. You know, I do think, look at the schedule, that Texas A&M Auburn game might be the game to watch.
Cincinnati, it's been fun. Wake Forest, no one cares, but it should be fun come Tuesday night.
And again, Friday night, kind of cold and rainy out there, but it is the last week of high school football in the regular season. So get out and support your local area team, as a lot of teams wrap up their regular season. Playoffs right around the corner. So still some football left for some teams. Some teams will see their seasons come to an end tonight, but get out there and support your local high school football team here this evening. And we will see you on Monday right here, 3 and Out, all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Love to hear from you as the show ends on Twitter at Pigskin Radio. We'll see you Monday here on 3 and Out.